Hello, everyone, and welcome to week 9. For this week's exercise program that we're going to do together, we're still in chapter 8, and so these are the programming assignments for at the end of chapter 8. And for this, I thought um, this one right here would be a fun one to do. So it says write a defining table in a program that builds and displays a 12 by 12 multiplication table. All right, so let me grab my template here and paste it over here. And then let me grab this. All right, so for our assignment, we have that. So our defining table, we don't really need any input. We're just going to generate a 12 by 12 multiplication table. So I'll just say calculates and creates multiplication table. And then our output will be the table. Okay, I'm going to change this to multiplication table. And then this template function I'll make to be generate table. Okay, we don't need any input, so I'll remove that. We don't need that either. Okay, so the HTML is nice and simple. All we have is just a button to run our function and this output div where we're going to display our table. All right, so let's go ahead and dive into this. So thinking through this a little bit, we're going to have to, let's see, just put that there, processing. Output. All right, so for our processing, we're actually going to have to build a table. The most simple way to do this with where we're currently at in the class is just by having like a massive string that we end up appending to. Okay, so I'm going to start off this string by saying var, we'll just call it table string equals table. Okay, now if I look at like W3 schools, I would want to look at W3 schools to see how we actually make a table. Let's see, this is 8.10. So if we go to W3 schools, HTML table, and we'll just kind of look at this. So this is basically what we're going to be building, right? But instead of like this random stuff, we're going to have a multiplication table. Okay, but we'll have this table for each row and then each column, each cell in that row. Okay, so coming back here, so we have this table being generated with just this string. And then I'm going to need some way to loop through this. So I'm going to say for, let's say row equals 1, row is less than or equal to 12, because we're going for a 12 by 12 table, and then row plus plus. Okay, so for every row, this will be like my for loop for my rows. We're going to go through it 12 times from 1 through 12. Okay, and then in here, I'm going to say table string plus equals, and we're going to add a row to our table string. Okay, and now once I've made that, I'm going to have to make some columns. Okay, and you may have guessed it, we're going to have to make another for loop here. So I'll say for column equals 1, column is less than or equal to 12, column plus plus. Okay, and then we'll open that up. Then here I'll say table string plus equals, and we have to add the actual cell, whoops, the actual cell, and then plus column times row. Okay, we'll actually do some math there. And then plus, and we'll close off that tag. Okay, so we'll get our value there for that specific cell, and then enclose it inside of these HTML tags, and that'll give us what we need. Then once this whole thing's over, we're going to close off that row, plus equals, close off the row. And then once this whole thing is over, we need to close off the table, plus equals table. All right, and then right here, we'll output our table string. Okay, and we'll see what happens. So let's go ahead and run this. I'll copy this file path and stick it in here. Okay, so we have run function. If I hit F12, I want to actually see this running for the first time. All right, so I'm going to put a breakpoint right there. I hit run function. All right, so we have our table string. And we're just going to step through this a little bit to see how it's working. Okay, table string now has its first row being declared, and now it has its first value as well, its first cell. Okay, we'll keep going, see how it's looking. We have 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, if I hit F8, it'll jump down here, and you can see it's getting pretty ugly. Lots of individual cells all the way down to 12, so that's good. All right, so it looks like all that's working. If I hit F8 again, it'll come down here, and you can see it now. This has gotten really big. The last one here should be 144. Yep, okay, for the 12 times 12, the last cell. All right, so we're gonna let that go and see how that prints up. Okay, so we have our 12 by 12 multiplication table. Let's clean this up a little bit though. I want this to be like a really nice looking table. So in here, so I have this style here for the body. I'm just going to add a little bit more style here for the table, the row, and the cells in the rows. I'm going to say I want a border, 1 pixel solid black, and I'm going to make everything centered. So text align center, and then padding, I'll say 3 pixels. Now what this padding will do is basically give it a little bit of space inside of each cell. Okay, so let's see what that looks like now. I don't need that anymore. Refresh the page, hit run. Okay, so that looks a little bit better, but I want to do a little bit more as well. So I'm also going to make it so that the first row, whoops, first child and the first column are a different style. So I'm going to say font size, and I'll just say 35 pixels, and then font weight, we'll say bold. Okay, now let's try that one more time. Run function. Okay, so we got nice big first row and first column. And let's add just a little bit more. So I think it'd be cool to have a way to kind of color this diagonal line. Okay, so if we wanted to do that in here, where we're actually making the individual cells, I'm going to say if column is equal to row. So if column and row are at the same number, okay, which will go down along that diagonal line, I'm going to say table string plus equals, and then in here, I'll still have like my TD plus column times row plus, and then a closing TD, just like we did before. But this time, I'm going to say style, whoops, style equals background color, and then let's just say like pink. Okay, so we'll change that styling just for that diagonal line. So if I refresh this and run the function, you can see we have a nice diagonal line, but we have an issue here. We have 2 1s. That's weird. So let's see what's going on. It looks like it's because I forgot to add this condition. Oops. So this will only happen if the other one doesn't. Okay, let's try running that again. Run function. There we go. That looks better. Okay, so that's pretty cool. The next thing that I think it'd be cool to do is if instead of having a 12 by 12 table, we actually do allow an input. So here I'll say, please enter a number, input type text, ID, and we'll just say user input. And then up here, I'll say var table size equals document.get element by ID user input value. And we are going to parse that. And then in the place of these 12s, we're just going to put that table size. Okay, so we'll say, we'll start off at 1 and we'll go until however many the user says. Okay, so let's refresh this. Let's say I enter like 5, we just have a 5 by 5 table. If I entered 500, it's going to be a big table. And there it goes, our 500 by 500 table. Okay, so we can really do anything we want, but we have this nice big table now. So yeah, just a couple things that we can do to kind of play with this. Let's say like 20, then we can actually see it on the page. Okay, so those are just a couple of things that I thought would be cool to add to this. Hopefully this has been helpful for you in seeing how we can actually generate HTML code on the fly in here. Similar to last week's program, we're just building a single string with this, a really big, ugly string. There are better ways to do this with JavaScript, but we're not really going to go into them in this class. But let me know if you have any questions. Hopefully this is helpful, and will help give you a good start for week 9. So thanks for watching.